The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And I wish you all a very good afternoon. It's great to be here. We have great guests coming up. We have a lot of good things coming up in the next hour. Behind the glass, we have Eric Williams and Kelvin Mazzara, and the executive producer, and very executive man, is Rich Rattobali. So I welcome you, and I thank you very much for tuning in. You're the most important commodity in this show, the audience. I have a couple of things to talk about, and then we'll get you the first of our guests. The Yankees and Mets both made a deal. The deadline is this coming Thursday, the 31st. And I don't know if it's 6 o'clock in the evening or midnight, but probably 6 o'clock in the evening. Anyway, the Yankees got a third baseman that I really wanted, Ryan McMahon. He is not having a good year with the bat, but he is a home run hitter, and he's a left-hand hitter, and he's going to love playing in Yankee Stadium. He's a very good defensive third baseman. So the Yankees have won there, and I don't know why McMahon is hitting so poorly this year in batting average, but he has 16 home runs. He has a base hit today, and he made a spectacular play, a diving stop, and then a great throw to first base. So I think we're going to like Ryan McMahon. I liked him already. So I'll tell you one thing about McMahon. There was a game I watched. It was in Colorado, and Colorado was losing, and they were able to fill the bases, and McMahon came up. This was a couple of years ago. And the first pitch, he hit it in the upper deck in right center. Grand slam to win the game. Now, the Mets also made a deal for something they needed, and the Yankees need that too, and that's a left-hand relief pitcher. The Yankees only have one. They must come up with a lefty in the next few days just to help out Hill and to help out the bullpen. Now, when Hill comes in the fifth or sixth inning, when Booney uses him so the game doesn't get away, and how much can he pitch him? He only can pitch him an inning, if that, and then they have no other lefty. So they need a lefty, and the lefty that the Mets got, Greg Soto, is as they say, the Mets now have another Soto. But Gregory Soto is a left-hander with a great arm. Does he always throw strikes? No. But when he throws strikes, he's really tough. I read something, I can't remember the newspaper, but the newspaper was talking about how well Cody Bellinger is playing. And since he got off to a very slow start, since, I guess, May or the beginning of June, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. And he plays four positions for the Yanks. First, right, center, and left. Now, he's terrific. Now, this fellow who was writing said, the problem is, if Bellinger he's a free agent at the end of the year. If Bellinger continues, he probably will leave the Yankees and go to another team. So I want to say this. If you're the Yankees and you want a player, for example, look what they bid for Soto. You want a player, and Cody Bellinger is a Yankee because his dad was a Yankee on World Series teams. If the Yankees want to get a player, they'll get the player. I don't know if you thought about it or read about it, but the Los Angeles Lakers were sold for $10 billion. Now, let me tell you something. If the Lakers and the NBA are worth $10 billion, can you imagine what the Yankees are worth? So let's begin at $10 billion. And if it was me, if you began at $10 billion, I'd say stop. I'll sell. And I want the $10 billion in cash. But anyway, if Bellinger continues, the Yankees will do everything they can to sign him. And if they can't sign him, I don't know any other team that would be able to. Now, my next thought is about our buddy Aaron Boone, and he really is a friend of mine. I really like him. The argument about Boone has been that he's so nice to his players And here the Yankees are playing just terrible baseball. Terrible defensively, terrible bullpen. They have their starting staff has been decimated by injury. So the Yankees have a ways to go in many ways. And the media who talks to Boone before the game and then after the game, they want Boone to knock the players. Never going to happen. Never. If Aaron Boone knocks a player, please come to me and tell me, because I want to write that date down. Never going to happen. Never. And you have to admit, the Yankees make the playoffs all the times, and they don't have a great team. But, the Boone approach is doing very, very well. So if you're waiting for him to knock the team, boy, you have a long wait coming. Well, one other thought. On the show previous, the left versus the right, the judge, he talked about how years ago he was watching an Alabama football game, and they were in the huddle, and he noticed 6 black players. And so he said, obviously, the South in football and basketball came together very quickly. And I'll tell you something. It's a true story. Bear Bryant, he was Alabama football. He was college football. Bear Bryant went to his people at Alabama, all of the movers and shakers, and he said to them, obviously it's in the early 60s, and he said to them, if we don't recruit black players, we'll never win. And so what you can see now in football and basketball, blacks are very well representative in every college, including all the ones in the Deep South. One other thought, I hope you get a kick out of this. I have a buddy, he lives in Florida, and his name is David Mills, and we've been buddies since we were freshmen in high school. And he is a great sports fan. Well, obviously, he's my friend. He has to be a good sports fan. Anyway, he roots for 4 teams. He roots for the Yankees. He roots for the Jets. And he roots for the Knicks and Rangers. And he has a dish in the home that he and Linda have in Florida, and he can get all the games. And I asked him once, so he told me, I only watch the Yankees, Jets, Knicks, and Rangers. He doesn't watch any other games. And here he is, his good buddy, me. I watch everything. I don't care who's playing. I watch every game. So it occurred to me, what does Dave do about exhibition games? Does he actually watch them? Jets play an exhibition game? Exhibition games are the worst football games of all time, and that's why they have to protect the quarterback, or you would have exhibition games. And so I asked David, I said, I know you watch every Yankee game and Jet game and Knick game and Ranger game. What do you do about exhibitions? Do you watch the exhibition games? And he said to me, no, of course not. So that's the exhibition season, and we're about a week away from beginning the exhibition season. And if you're wondering, what do I think about that? I can't wait. I can't wait to see the games. I love the games. Well, we are here at 77 WABC. We're going to break for a moment, take care of a little business, then come back with our very first guest of the afternoon right here at 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Our first guest. You know how on all these shows, everyone's always a good friend. Where is a good friend? Well, here is a guy who really is a good friend. He's Anthony McCarron of your favorite newspaper and SNY on TV. And Anthony, hello, how are you?
I'm good, John. How you doing?
Yeah, I guess you are, friend. We had a great dinner Thursday night.
Yes, we did. Delicious.
Boy, was that food good or what? And I had
still a little full.
I had some of it last night too. It was just as good. Well, Anthony, meanwhile, your Mets are doing extremely well. They won 4 in a row. They seem to score right away. I think they have a really good team. I mentioned that night at dinner, the only problem they have is they don't hit with men on base a lot, but they do put a lot of people on base. But now they've won 4 in a row, so you know what? I guess they're hitting with men on base.
Yeah, John, they traffic, and that's got to be a good thing. I mean, they do have a bunch of talented hitters in that lineup. I would say that I agree with you. This has sort of hamstrung the Met offense into not being as good as it maybe could be. But Friday night against the Giants, I thought they had a really nice game in terms of doing a lot of different things on offense, getting some productive outs in the first inning against Logan Webb, who's always been really tough against them, and he's one of the best pitchers in the league, obviously. And then they get a laser from Lindor, and they stole some bases, and that seemed to bother Webb as well. So they sort of flashed the full potential and growth of their offense there. You just need to see it a little bit more from them. They've got to hit with men on, and if they ever do, then they could become something really special.
If they hit with men on base, they could be the best team in baseball. I know the Dodgers are very good and will be better if they get some of their pitchers back. But now the Mets got something they needed, and they got a really good one in Gregory Soto. Did you like that move?
I did, and it was necessary. The first thing that comes to my mind is, though, that as good as this is, they need more in the bullpen, and I think they need an additional arm, an additional, like a real high leverage setup guy to get to help them get to Edwin Diaz. But Soto is a good start. They've had trouble getting lefties in the bullpen. Brooks Raley is back, and he's a good one. He's back from Tommy John, but they've lost other guys to injuries, and I think adding Soto as a second lefty was necessary. I mean, he murders left-handed hitters, and if the Mets get to where they want to get to, which is competing at the end of the season for the NL East title with the Phillies, well, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber meet Gregory Soto because he's going to be coming out of the bullpen, and then if they go deep into October, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, PCA in Chicago. Those are the kind of guys that Soto could face in big situations in October. If you're dreaming big, John, and I always am. And he's got a mastery of lefties. The Mets put out a great stat in their release about him. In the last 23 times he's faced a lefty, they're 0 for 23 with 14 strikeouts.
Well, I mentioned on the air one thing: he really throws hard. And if he throws strikes, I think he's a heck of a pitcher. So, I think I've said this on the air. The Yankees also desperately need another left-hander in the bullpen. That is one thing. You read about all the teams that need bullpen. Well, most bullpens stink, and I can tell you why. The reason is because they pitch every day 3 or 4 innings, and they get worn out. And, basically that's true. How often does a starter go past the 6th inning?
Perfect example last night in the Met game again, John, that, Clay Holmes in his conversion to starting is a 5-inning guy. And the Mets had to get 4 innings out of their bullpen, and they got 4 scoreless innings, which was a great job by them. But, this is all playing into their workload issues in the pen, which is why they need to make another addition in my mind. And, look at the top of the market for that. They really do need to get a David Bednar, or, if such a pitcher as Yohan Duran of the Twins is indeed available, I think the Mets ought to make it happen with one of those kind of guys to tuck in right under Diaz.
Well, I agree with you, except you're going to find a lot of teams in baseball looking for bullpen, and with 7 teams making the playoffs in each league, there are a lot of teams that, aren't doing great, but they think they've got a chance. They're 3, 4, 5 games out. So, for the guys like Bednar or Duhan or people like that, there's going to be a lot of competition, which means you're going to have to give up a lot.
Yes, and it's going to be top of the market competition because the Phillies are looking for bullpen help. Their bullpen is in dire straits. And
always. One thing about
scouring.
that, I think Dave Dombrowski is as good as any executive in baseball. And since he's been with the Phillies, every year he tries and brings in new people, and I can't say none of them ever work, but very few of them work.
Well, I thought they made a nice move when they went and got David Robertson, who only cost money. I was surprised that I know he did well for himself, Robertson. He always does, and I understand that he's 40 and that he needs maybe 2 weeks to get into major league game shape. But I thought that was something that one of the New York teams should have pounced on if it was available to them, and I don't know yes or no whether it was. I know he's been in Philly in the past, as he's been on the Yankees and Mets in the past, Robertson. But I thought that was you can hug your prospects and you can help your bullpen at the same time, and that was a no-brainer move to me.
Boy, I agree with you, but I'm a great David Robertson fan. He has an idea of what he's doing. He doesn't throw hard anymore. In fact, a couple of years ago, he joked that these different pitchers all throw so hard, and their changeup is 92. And Robertson said, "That's my fastball." So, tell me about the thing that's really struck baseball. I guess other sports too, but that's injuries. Any idea what they do to stop all the injuries, especially to pitchers? Yeah,
it's amazing that they haven't figured it out yet, John, because there's so many resources devoted to figuring out why these guys get hurt. There are so many restrictions in place for pitchers now, based on their workload, whether it's pitches, innings. One of the new terms is up downs, for relievers. If they come in, they get out of the seventh inning and go back to start the eighth inning, or how many times did they warm up? They're watching every little thing, and they're taking every measurable they can off of pitchers' bodies, and they still break all the time. And it is part of the problem. It's part of the challenges of managing and front officing baseball. You've got to weather these storms with pitchers, especially, and the good ones who post are so good and so valuable that then you have to give them a king's ransom to come play for your team. So there's all these things swirling around, but I'm not sure that anybody's closer to any answers.
How about this? I don't say this is right, and even if it is, I wouldn't know it. But how about all these pitches trying to throw 100 miles an hour? You think that's any?
Yeah.
Does it have any part of this?
Yes, constant max effort. It's got to. Because look, when you hear the older pitchers, and look, I realize that when we get to a certain age, John, we all look back at the good old days and we think about them in a certain way, and that kind of thing. But when you talk to pitchers who were accomplished, guys who had high workloads during their time in the game, a lot of them said that they were not throwing 95 all through the game, and now when everything is measured, when all of they can pinpoint the spin rate on your breaking ball, the planes that they move through, whether you are retaining your velocity or not, all these things that are added up, and so the pitchers are then feel compelled. That inning, the third inning, you weren't throwing as hard, So are you hurt? Well, I got to prove that I'm not hurt because I don't feel bad. I've got to throw hard again. So it's max effort all the time, and I think you might be onto something. I don't know whether it's true or not, but intuitively you have to believe that going as hard as you can for as long as you can, 99, 99, 99 every time, that's got to have a ripple effect.
Oh, I would think so. And, of course, I know older pitchers. I agree with you about the old days, but the same people I know, Tommy John and Bert Blyleven and Jim Cott. And Jim Cott Tom Seaver, they firmly believe that pitchers don't throw enough. And here they're holding them to an X amount of pitches and getting them out after 5 innings. Now, that's not going to change. Just because, I don't like it, that doesn't mean it's not going to change. But they do have a problem in having the bullpen. The Yankee bullpen is shot. Really is shot. They're on fumes. And, of course, they have to pitch 3 or 4 innings every game. And this is baseball where you play every single day.
Right. And the easiest way for the people in the front office to keep their jobs is to have a throwing program and a protection system in place for your pitchers, because then you can say to the owner of the team, well, we tried to protect them. They just got hurt. If you're saying, well, we're going to have everybody throw 125 pitches per start because we want them to throw more, and then they get hurt, then you face, I would imagine that you would face blame from the guy who's writing the checks, and that's not going to work for your long-term employability.
Well, I hate to go to, quote-unquote, the old days, but we lived through it. I'll give you 2 examples. Sandy Koufax pitched a 2-0 shutout against Minnesota in the 7th game of the 65 World Series. He pitched on 2 days rest. He couldn't start. Remember that, Anthony? Because of Yom Kippur, and so he took that day off. In fact, there's a great line. Don Drysdale started Game 1 against Minnesota, and he was knocked out. He was getting beaten up. And Walter Alston comes out to the mound, and Drysdale says, I bet you wish I was Jewish. So, anyway, that's what Koufax did. And, just a couple of years later, Mickey Lolich did the same thing. It was a 2-0 shutout in St. Louis. Sandy pitching in Minnesota on 2 days rest, pitched a complete game, giving up 2 hits. Now, I wonder, Anthony, if Koufax, it's ridiculous to think that, and Lolich would be taken out after the 6th inning or the 7th inning.
It's a great question, but can you imagine Sandy Koufax's line in games like that? 5 scoreless innings, no hits, 14 strikeouts, and no walks, and that 1 ball put in play, and then but he would have hit his pitch count, and out he comes.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed. I think right now the Mets doing okay, and the Yankees are not, but you're always okay. So, Anthony, we have to do some spots. So I thank you for coming on.
Always a pleasure, John.
And I will tell you this, sir, you're going to be coming on again. What do you think of that?
I love it. I'm available anytime.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. And we'll take care of some business, and then we'll get back. I have a great guest coming up, and we will get back after this on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And here is a good friend, outstanding writer for whatever newspaper or internet service he is on. His name is Ian O'Connor. And Ian, I welcome you to the program and thank you for coming on.
Hey, John, it's always great to talk to a legend. How are you?
The legend's okay, I guess.
Good.
I'm hanging in there. Just one thought before I get to more important things. Yankees got really beaten again today, and their bullpen got beaten up and whatever. And I just noticed on the screen that it says Aaron Boone's press conference is coming up, on their postgame. And that the media would love him to knock his team. And you know what, Ian? That's not possible.
Yeah, I agree, John. I don't think he's capable really of doing that, at least in this climate, the way he sees it. But I think obviously the big story is Aaron Judge, and is he going to reveal that the extent of this elbow injury? And I think everyone in Yankeedom is holding his or her breath, waiting for that news. And man, that would be such a shame, such a terrible shame if this is a serious injury and he's out for an extended period of time. And he's just having a season for the ages. So let's hope that the news is very good. We'll see if Aaron Boone here in a few minutes discloses anything of significance.
What are they saying about the injury?
Well, it's just that it's the elbow, and you saw the other night in Toronto where he winced in pain when he threw the ball in from right field. And basically after the off day Thursday, apparently he was feeling better, played Friday night and felt discomfort and pain in that elbow again. So obviously some tests and imaging have taken place today, and hopefully the results come back here in a little bit, and the news is good. But that is obviously a very, very serious matter. Any kind of absence when you're talking about Aaron Judge, who's having one of the great seasons of all time, would be really damaging to this Yankee cause. And obviously, John, just looking at it, they, as you know, 2 months ago, they're up 7 games in the division. Now they're down 6 games to Toronto, who is 8 games back of the Yankees 2 months ago. So this slide has gone on for an extended period of time, and it is very alarming.
Well, if my numbers are right, and I really never have numbers with me, but I think they have lost 27 of their last 41 games. And boy, that's not just one little blip in the road. That's a long time, 41 games. That's 1/4 of the year.
Yeah, so, John, and it's also the way that they've lost, the errors upon errors upon errors. And it surprised me this year. I really thought the Yankees would be a very buttoned-up, fundamentally sound team based on not just losing the World Series, but as you remember, a few of the Dodgers players pretty much mocked the Yankees for their lack of fundamentally sound play, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And so I have to say, I'm actually kind of shocked that they're having this kind of season defensively. Their new addition at third base, McMahon, did make a very good play in the 8th inning, backhanded dive. So, and he is a very good defender at third base, not great offensively, but it is what they need, and so we'll see if he makes a difference.
Yeah, I would say this, Ian, if Judge is hurt, first of all, they don't release anything. They don't tell, not just the Yankees, any ball club in any sport, they don't tell you about injuries. In hockey, they've gone as far as to say upper body injury, lower body injury. They don't give you any, which is wrong because the fans support these leagues so well. They're making so much money. I'd say this, though, if Judge is really hurt, that would be the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You never, if you're the manager, of course, you would never say that publicly.
Oh, no,
and I would suspect that Spencer Jones would be called up. That's a move they can make, and he's having a great run in AAA right now. And so, but just play the underdog card, which is a card the Yankees don't often get to play. There are 3 wild card spots to be handed out. I would think the Yankees could still contend for one of those. And then once you get in the tournament, you could be a feel-good story if you can make a run without Aaron Judge. But let's hope that it doesn't get to that point, because I felt this year, John, that I was watching, and really in the last 3-4 years, it was like covering Babe Ruth.
Oh, absolutely.
I felt like I got to feel or understand what it was like back then to cover Babe Ruth. And that was a privilege. It really was. And I just hope that doesn't end with whatever Aaron Boone is going to say in this press conference.
You know, I love what you say. If if Judge is not really hurt and he hits, 14 more home runs and finishes with, let's say, 50, that'd be 4 years, 50 or more home runs. Boy, that's pretty good. That is Ruthian. That is pretty good. Well, let me get to something else with you, something much more important for you. You're coming out with a book. I can't wait to read it. First of all, you're a terrific writer. I've loved everything you've written. But you're doing a book on Danny Hurley and the great success of Connecticut basketball.
Yeah, it's actually with Dan Hurley. My previous 6 books were unauthorized biographies. My most recent one of those was Aaron Rodgers. This one is the first time I've actually worked with the subject, and it was a great process. I really enjoyed spending the season and time with Dan. I've known his family forever. I covered his brother Bobby at Duke some. I've known the father, obviously one of the greatest high school basketball coaches of all time. And Dan, coming off back-to-back national championships, we thought that was the right time to do the project. Obviously, UConn didn't win it all this year, though they gave Florida a big run for its money in the second round, almost beat the eventual national champion this year. And next year, or the upcoming season, the Huskies are preseason top 5. They're really good. So they have a shot to maybe win 3 championships in 4 years, which would be a dynasty and a hell of an accomplishment.
Oh, phenomenal. In fact, Ian, you put together the men's basketball program and the women's basketball program at Connecticut. Isn't it amazing that school could have that success throughout the country?
It sure is, particularly it's not a place where you go to for the weather, and they admit this. Storrs, Connecticut is a little bit of a middle-of-nowhere place, and, yeah, you look at the national championships, you're talking about a combined, 18? It is an amazing – it's probably the most stunning college basketball story ever, that school could be the signature school in women's and men's basketball. So it's probably not talked about enough in college basketball, what UConn has been able to do. And so, yeah, it's an amazing run. Obviously, Gino Auriemma, it goes down as one of the greatest coaches in any sport in the history of this country.
Right.
And it's an amazing story.
No, it really is. Tell me about this project. Did you work on a daily basis with Danny Hurley?
It felt like an hourly basis, actually. And so I was with UConn for the season, and it was a challenging season. As you know, he got criticized quite a bit this year for his sideline disposition. And so it was challenging for him in every way. They weren't as good as they were when they won the back-to-back national championships. It took him a while to get used to that and to accept that. But at the end, again, they made a run, had a chance to beat Florida, the eventual champion, in the second round, and didn't work out. But if they come back and win it again this year, 3 out of 4, that's a dynasty to me. So obviously, for the sake of the book and for Dan's legacy, I hope that does go down that way.
Well, now I'm going to root for you.
Thank you.
I was at dinner, Ian, with a lot of your friends, Dama Mori and Anthony McCarron and Pete Caldera, and actually someone told me, I can't remember who, that your book is coming out now. It's coming out in a week. Is that right?
No, it's actually coming out September 30th. We'll start promoting it, though, fairly soon, maybe in August some. But my Aaron Rodgers book came out last August. The paperback version's coming out in a few weeks. And I was just in Pittsburgh, went on Thursday for his first practice with the Steelers, and drove back after spending a day at Giants camp. So I've been bouncing around. Was supposed to have today off, but obviously sort of waiting for this Aaron Judge news, and depending on what that news is, I might be back on in about 15 minutes.
Well, by the way, I read the Aaron Rodgers book, and it was fabulous, and I'm looking forward to this one. This is September 30th now. It's coming out. And
that's correct, yep.
Okay. So tell your people to send me a book.
Oh, I will personally send it to you. I think
if they don't, I'll go out and buy it.
And Aaron Boone is at the podium right now, so I guess we'll see what he has to say. But yeah, I think people will enjoy the story. The life story of Dan Hurley is a very profound one. He's overcome quite a bit, some serious issues when it comes to depression as a college student, as a struggling player at Seton Hall, and just to overcome the specter of his brother and father, and having that kind of success and trying to live up to that was a great challenge to him, and he overcame it.
Yes. As you mentioned, Bob Hurley was one of the great high school coaches of all time, forever in New Jersey, St. Anthony's, I think. And, and his brother Bobby was a big star. So, anyway, that's the book. I can't wait to read it. They've just announced that Aaron Judge was diagnosed with a flexor strain. You have any idea what that means?
No, not really. I didn't go to med school. But I'm trying to look here on X to see if somebody is giving a little bit of a timeline here on that. Doesn't sound as bad as maybe the worst fears that were out there. But no, I can't give you that diagnosis. But just looking here to see if somebody can in the next 50 seconds. And let's hope that it's something that doesn't keep him out for any period of time.
Well, Ian, we have to break, like we all do in radio, to sell a few items, and then we'll get back with the final quarter hour. It's great having you on, and maybe you can find out information while we're away for the spots. So we'll get back with Ian O'Connor in a moment, right here at 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And as they say, who else? Judge is going to go on the list, on the IL. And, it's unfair for me to ask you what that means, because how would you know? You're on the air with me, but what do you think it means?
Well, obviously it's a strain in the elbow, and it means that he's going to DH, I imagine, the rest of the season. But it is great news when the fear was that it was a tear that would require Tommy John surgery.
Oh my.
So that during the day, I think that's where most Yankees fans went, to that possibility. And so this is actually great news. I think most people were expecting worse than that and would have signed up for that an hour or two ago without question, that he'd end up on the injured list and that would need to DH when he returned. If the Yankees have his bat in the lineup for most of the rest of the season, I think they're going to be fine as far as making the playoffs. And to me, when you're a wild card, you got a shot. You just got to get in the tournament, John. And sometimes it almost is a benefit to be a wild card. If you win that first series, you have momentum, and you end up facing a team that's been sitting around for 4 days. We've seen it happen before. So Yankees down 6 games now in the division. If Judge isn't out for too long, I think they get one of these 3 wild cards, and they'll be fine going forward and have a shot. You look in the American League, the Dodgers are on the other side of the draw. That's a good thing. There's nobody in the American League, if I'm a Yankees fan, that I'm terrified of.
Well, I agree. Detroit had, they've come so far in the last few years, get players. That's what happens. And, they've lost 11 out of 12 games. So you're right about the American League. So Judge would be out for 10 days, right?
I don't know my suspicion is it might be a little longer than that ultimately, but I think that at a minimum. And but if you told me that he'd be out for 3 weeks, I would have signed up for that before I came on the show and before Aaron Boone went to the microphone here. I mean, I was thinking this sounds maybe season threatening, and so it sounds like it's just going to be a shorter period of time than most of us suspected, and that is a good sign. It
is a good sign. I'll tell you something that isn't so good. If, in fact, you're right that when Judge comes back, they DH him, then what do you do with Giancarlo, who actually is hitting the ball very well, getting a lot of base hits along with home runs.
Right, and I just don't think you can put him out in the field.
No.
Just his body at this point, I don't think can take it. So that is a problem. That is a problem that is going to have to be solved here one way or the other. And I think that's a good problem to have. That means Aaron Judge is available, and Boone's going to have to, and Cashman will have to figure that one out. But this news saves the season. And I think that they don't have to win the division, and they still might. Again, they're down 6 games. And in 2 months, they've lost 14 games in the standings to the Blue Jays. So I imagine the way the Blue Jays have played against the Yankees, you could argue that the Yankees should be afraid of them in the postseason tournament. But I just don't see a juggernaut team that I would say, no, the Yankees can't beat this opponent in a playoff series. And it's the one thing, when Soto left the Yankees and went to the Mets, he put himself on the Dodgers side of the draw, which is going to make it more challenging to get to the World Series. And I still think the Yankees have as good a chance as anyone, as long as Judge is going to be back and be okay, at least offensively, as anyone in the American League to make the World Series, to get back to the World Series. So this is this bulletin here, or this piece of news from Aaron Boone, is a very good thing.
Yeah, it'll be up to Boone to figure out all of his different lineups. It's not bad having Stanton on the bench. They always talk about the Yankees have 2 extra players. I think that's a good thing. Then they have 2 guys on the bench who can hit. So,
and as you know, John, Stanton has good October numbers, better than Judge's, really.
Right, yeah.
So he's a guy who's produced under pressure. So that's something that's certainly in the Yankees' minds right now as they determine what the heck they're going to do when Judge comes back as basically a full-time DH.
I would agree with that because of his arm problems. 2 years ago, the Yankees played a series at home against Arizona near the end of the year, and I saw a lot of young players I didn't know with Arizona. And so, they played so well that, I kind of got a little rooting for them. And after all, look what Arizona did. They went all the way to the World Series and they won a couple of games. So who knows? I agree with you. Get in the playoffs. Once you get in the playoffs, the Yankees need Heel to come back, and then that would give them 3 big-time starters.
Absolutely.
That they need.
By the way, John, it looks like, as you're speaking here, that Judge initially has to be a DH. So who knows? Maybe he can then transition to right field after that elbow calms down some more and is ready for it. So I don't know if this means I don't know when he'll be able to play the field, but if his time as a DH is temporary, that means that Stanton then can go back to that DH role, and they'll be in business. But, yeah, just get in the dance. And once they're there, again, the Dodgers being on the other side of the draw is a good thing, and they'll have a shot.
Well, I agree. And about them not playing well last year, I figured out if they had just done the normal things, a throw back into the infield that got away in Game 1, well, the Yanks would have won that game, and then obviously Game 5, and they would have gone to L.A. with a 3-2 lead. I don't know if they would have won. Anyway, yeah, you mentioned that you've hit the football camps, and in this city, football mad, and I'm one of them, watch every game. I know it's almost impossible to predict this right now. You think the Giants and Jets will be, better where they become almost a 500 team, something like that?
I think the Jets are going to surprise some people. I liked Justin Fields as a quarterback who has upside, who I think actually played fairly well for the Steelers. He went 4-2, and then they went back to Russell Wilson. And I think that I'm not going to say he's going to be like Jalen Brunson with the Knicks where he explodes, but there's a lot of upside there. And I think Justin Fields can be a good player for the Jets. And so I think they can have a little bit of a bounce-back season, but I still think the Jets will be under 500. The problem with the Giants is they have the toughest schedule in the NFL. And, John, if you look at their home schedule, try to find me 2 wins at home. Their home schedule is tougher than their road schedule. And I think the Giants will be better this year. They added a very, very good pass rusher, Abdul Carter, to a pass rush that really should be one of the better pass rushes in the NFC. And they have a veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson who's on the downside, a promising young quarterback in Jackson Hart. They've got a great wide receiver in Neighbors. But what concerns me, other than, hey, if you're a Giants fan and you want Brian Dable to still be your head coach and Joe Shane to still be your general manager, they have a losing season. Likely both will be gone. And I just think that schedule is so oppressive that the Giants could be improved, but still go, 6-11, 7-10. And I don't see a path to a better record than that.
Well, I know this sounds silly, but 7-10 actually would be a pretty good record for them because their records have been so poorly. We look at ball clubs, and the first thing you look at, all of us do, is the quarterback. And they're in a division, they have 2 quarterbacks, Wilson and Winston, who have been around for a while, and they have a young guy they want to see play in Jackson Dart. But, you look at the division, and you have Daniels in Washington, and you have Prescott in Dallas, and you got Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I don't know if they can beat those teams.
Yeah, I don't know either. They always struggle with the Cowboys, who maybe are the one team and roster you look at and say, well, maybe the Giants can hurdle them. But you have the defending champs in your division, of course, with Saquon Barkley, who the Giants had. And Daniels looks like a megastar in the making. And the Cowboys are a better team talent-wise than the Giants, who struggle with them. So, yeah, the Giants on paper look like the 4th best team in that division. And when we're done, look at their schedule. And that is an ominous hurdle that they're going to have to try to figure out how to overcome that. And I do think they're better than they were last year. Of course, it's hard to be worse than they were last year. But they need to surprise people for Dable and Shane to be back next year in their roles as head coach and general manager.
Oh, you're probably right. One thing about the NFL this year, there are so many quarterback decisions that have to be made, and we have to find out if this guy can play and that guy can play. And if you go down the list, there's one after the other. Well, for example, Minnesota wants to start a guy who didn't play last year. And they gave up on Darnold, who led them to the playoffs. And Cleveland has 4 quarterbacks. Anyway, the quarterback story is always the big one in the NFL.
It's the whole team. It's 75% of the team anyway. It's everything. And it's such a more of a passing league now than when I was growing up. It's the running back actually mattered when I was a kid, when I started watching the NFL. And now running backs are almost not expendable, but close to that. And, of course, Saquon Barkley proved that the running back still matters to some degree and the impact he had on the Eagles. But, yes, the quarterback is everything. You really don't have a chance to win in the postseason if you don't have one. And so we'll see if the Jets have one in Justin Fields, and we'll see if the Giants have one ultimately when Jackson Dart gets the chance to play. It reminds me of the 2004 Giants when Kurt Warner had the ball for the first 9 games, and then Tom Coughlin went to Eli Manning, the number 1 overall pick. I can see Russell Wilson playing 9 or 10 games of decent football for the Giants before they turn it over to Dart. But Dart is the future of the franchise, and we'll see how he pans out.
Well, Ian, I thank you for all of your opinions on all these sports. I love them. I can't wait to read your book. And I can promise you this, sir, you will be back on this program again. So thank you.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on. And I've loved your work for so long, and it's a pleasure.
My pleasure, too. Thank you, Ian. Ian O'Connor. And when you want me to get off in 20 seconds? Off. Okay. My thanks to Eric Williams and Kelvin Mazzara and Rich Ratabali. This is John Sterling. See you next week at this time. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to The John Sterling Show. You can hear The John Sterling Show Saturdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?